All right, Guillermo, thanks for coming on. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. So when did you first start getting into bodybuilding?
Well, I got into bodybuilding after doing college sports. It was one of those things where I was still lifting and being active, but I felt like I needed an outlet to compete in. And I missed competing because I was running track or playing football.
Yeah.
And then now there seemed to be no goal. I was just training and I loved it, but I wanted to have that competitive factor. So a friend of mine got me into bodybuilding, and he said, why don't you try doing a bodybuilding show? At first I did not want to get into briefs and spandex and try to flex, but I went to one show and I watched it, and then I said, I'll try it one time. And then that was in 2000, and I got hooked. Yeah, I was 24 when I did my first show.
Okay. Was it something you immediately knew that this is what you're gonna do, or did it kind of gradually evolve?
No, bodybuilding was never, not even in my radar in my teen years or even in my early 20s. When I went to this show, it was really my first exposure to bodybuilding. And so fitness was always on the radar, but bodybuilding specifically was not on the radar until I went to this show at 23, 24 years old.
Was there a certain point that you knew you could make the leap to kind of do this as a career in a way?
In terms of as a career, I think it was always my passion, and it's something that I always loved. So it was a very easy path in what I wanted to do. So when I was interested in the sciences, and it blended very nicely.
Yeah.
Because you have to know physiology, you have to know anatomy, and then when I found that there was a major that actually studied all of this, it just fit like a glove.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to be able to see it and be able to, now I could figure out scientifically what variables I can manipulate to improve my performance, to increase my strength, my speed, to reduce my likelihood of injury. So that's why once I was in the classroom, because I had a big appetite for how it could affect my performance, or I could help other people perform, it was a good marriage.
So once you saw the science, technical side of it, and then how you could take what you learned in the class and then implement it in the gym, was that something that kind of brought you closer to the sport?
Absolutely, and I think it's something that I think to this day you still need it, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Yeah. And even now, as I've gotten further into the process, I realize while there's all this information that is out there that is basically accepted as truth, but really there's very little scientific evidence to really understand it. And really the field of exercise science and sports nutrition, relative to other sciences, it's a very young field. So we're now really looking at very specific variables that we can actually isolate and try to explain why this works or why that this works better. So it's a really neat thing to be able to be a part of.
Yeah, I think that will be huge, especially with kind of kids and coming up and learning the proper way to do things, and also why it works, not just go do this in the gym and then you'll get this. It's more. There's more substance to it that you can actually take away.
Absolutely, yeah, and that substance I think is really important, and it's carrying over not only in the athletic population, but just in the exercises medicine movement, where people are realizing now that it's like, hey, I don't have to just lay on my back and be sedentary and take these pills to get better. So actually, exercise is my medicine, and I take it every morning or every night, and I do it 5 days a week. And that actually helps reduce my lower back pain, and it helps with my osteoarthritis. And I can manage diabetes with exercise and proper diet. And giving people those tools, I think, is really empowering. And of course, the athletic population is the whole other subset. How do I become bigger, faster, stronger in a more efficient manner while staying injury-free?
I want to get your take on kind of the feeling you have when you're bodybuilding. So maybe you have all this outside noise, right? Then you get in the gym and it kind of just all disappears. Do you have like a feeling like that, or what do you experience when you're?
No, absolutely. I think the gym is always my safe haven. It's my safe place. It's where I go. If I'm stressed, I work out. If I'm not feeling good, sometimes I go work out. If I'm dealing with life circumstances, I go work out. It really helps to complete me in a sense. And I think those, that hour or two that I'm in the gym, I know that it's time for me, and I really value that time. And I don't let anybody ever intrude on that time. So that's part of my life, and it's part of my repertoire. And to me, it's one of those things. Of course, I don't train 7 days a week all the time, but if I'm not exercising regularly, it feels like something's missing, and I don't feel complete. But it definitely, going there, it is a nice mental state, because I don't have to think about anything or worry about anything except what I'm doing for that hour or two on enhancing my physique or my goals. It's
kind of like a reset in a way, just clear your mind of everything. I know, like The Rock always says, it's like way cheaper than a psychiatrist, because he can get in the gym and kind of be alone with just yourself, and you figure out how to do that, and also just to clear your head.
Absolutely. And a lot of people love training partners, and I like to train with partners, here and there, but for the most part, most of the years that I've been doing this, I train by myself, and I actually enjoy that part, because it's my me time, so I like it. I enjoy training with others as well and being pushed, but I enjoy training by myself just as much. It's maybe even more sometimes.
Moving forward, what are your goals and ambitions for bodybuilding, and also what you want to leave behind for the fitness industry?
Well, I think I've been competing competitively for the last 18. This will be my 19th year, like I said, and I've been competing through the National Physique Organization, the NPC, which is the minor league, quote unquote, into the IFBB. So to get your IFBB Pro card. Now there are several IFBB Pro qualifying events in the National Physique Committee. Basically, national level events are qualified as pro qualifier events. And I have been in the mix and in the running and the bridesmaid for many, many years. I've beaten a lot of amazing pros in the amateur ranks, or I've been toe-to-toe with them. And my friends and my colleagues, have moved on, and I still have some friends myself that they're on the same boat as I am. So one of my goals is to get the IFBB Pro card and be able to compete at that level, and be able to do that. So that is one of my goals and aspirations, and I hope to attain that, in the next few years. And that's competitively. If the impact that I'll do, in terms of professional impact as a professional bodybuilder, okay, maybe I don't want to be Mr. Olympia, maybe I don't have the genetic potential to be Mr. Olympia, but that's okay. Yeah. I want to just say that I was able to compete at the pro level and be able to get to that level. It's already, that's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
Then I think on the other end of it, more on the education, research, resources, I want to be able to help people get there safely, because some people do a lot of unnecessary, unsafe practices. So I think being able to educate others into doing this a better way, a healthier way, getting rid of the misinformation or minimizing the misinformation, so that people can actually not just look at the biggest guy and say, what do you do to get in shape? Because what he or she does may not be the ideal way. It might work for them, or because they have great genetics and it works for them, but it doesn't mean, there's no scientific foundation. So what I would like to do is be able to give people the ability to go to science through the process that we've developed over the years, to be able to understand how do we get from A to B to C most efficiently, most effectively.
Is there a certain like mindset that you take with you to kind of help you on your journey that like keeps you true to why you started and why you're doing what you're doing?
I would say the mindset is always, leave everything on the table. When you're, it's that saying is like, people always say, I'm going to try to do this. I don't believe in trying. I say you either do it or you don't. And you might fail 20, 30, 50, 100 times, but you're either going to do it or you don't. At the end of the day, each effort that you give, you need to give it your all. So my mindset is always, let's go 100% and let's give it the best we got, and then test it out and put it to practice and see what happens. And then if you fail, reanalyze, dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and do it again. And I think that's the best mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you can take that into every aspect of life, not just in athletics. That's a huge takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. And know that there are going to be obstacles always. Life is never a smooth path. So you're going to have, in bodybuilding, you may have injuries, you may have setbacks, that occur, and you may get sick in the middle of your contest preparation, and that's an adversity that you have to deal with, and it's no different than in any part of life, right? You have to figure out, and you have to run with it with whatever cards you're dealt, and make the best of it so you can still reach that goal.
Has there been, speaking of failure and defeat, has there been a particular one that stands out to you that had been like a turning point for you? So maybe it's just like a 180 switch, maybe in like a mindset or physically. It may have seemed like a failure at the time, but it led you to this other opportunity. Has there been any that stick out to you?
Yeah, I think when I first started competing, even my very first national level show, when I had qualified to get there, and then you go to the USA Bodybuilding Championships, and I was a lightweight when I first did it, but there were 50-some lightweights, best in the country, and I'm one of those people, and I think being like the fifth call out, which means that you were like the last thought of all those people, made me realize like, wow, it's like, okay, I'm the big fish in the little pond, and this is the Southern California pond. It's not really that little, but when you go to that level and you realize the level of competition and what's required, it's humbling, and at the same time it makes you realize what type of game you have to bring to really be the best. So I think it's just I think the key is just the failure is, in a sense, is being humbled, and that's what you learn, and then how do you deal with that?
Did that also drive you in a way? So maybe, like, you get humbled by the defeat, but then you also, it makes you see like what you need to be at, but then did it also like drive you even more to try to get to that spot?
Yes, absolutely, because I think sometimes people when they're defeated, they look for excuses, but I think a true champion doesn't look for excuses. They actually they analyze why they failed, and they analyze what they can do better instead of looking for excuses. So it's not because the judge is this or the judge is that. forget that. It doesn't matter. So what you do is you look at pictures and you analyze, okay, what did the first place guy have that me, the 40th place guy, didn't have? And then now you start looking at, differences in muscularity and conditioning and symmetry, and you start pinpointing all those deficits, and then you make your biggest weaknesses, you identify them and you address them, and you make those your biggest strengths.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key that really kind of transfers to anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you focus on your strengths all the time, how are you ever gonna grow?
Yeah.
You have to focus on what you need to work on.
That's true. And I think it also gives you some clarity. So if you're always winning, you never know what to improve on. But
right.
If you're aware of it, when you do fail or have a defeat, it shows you directly what you need to work on. It's almost like, hey, here you go. Here's the plan to get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
So it's a really good learning process if, like you said, if you're aware of it and take the steps to get better. Is there anything you'd recommend for taking a passion of yours and turning it into your life's purpose in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you said the first thing, which is having a passion for it.
Yeah.
So you have to truly be passionate about whatever that is. And I think once you have that passion, then I think you need to develop a plan and a purpose for how you want to carry that out, because you might be passionate about fitness, okay, but in what purpose am I going to implement fitness, and how do I want to impact people or myself or others? Yeah. So you have to have a plan to reach that purpose. And then I think once you identify what that is, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of consistency, a lot of patience, and also some reevaluating and reassessing. Because as you grow in that path, you're going to come to certain areas of the road where it's going to be like a fork, and you're going to have to decide, do I go this way or do I go that way? And you have to make those decisions. And sometimes you may go this way and decide, I should have gone that way. So I think always having a self-assessment is very important, because that's what's going to guide your way most effectively. And then being humble, being able to listen to others, being able to learn, continually learn, and never be satisfied.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. One last question. What do you want to leave behind? Like, what do you want say we're at Guillermo's funeral, not to sound morbid, but what would you want to be remembered for?
I think I'd want to be remembered for, I think character has a lot to do with it. So, I think, being a good person is something that I would want to be remembered for. Being somebody who's passionate, being somebody who's hardworking, being somebody who maybe left an impact in being able to help others, maybe whether it's you taught them something or you motivated them to do something, or you were able to educate people to better their lives. I think that's what I would want to leave behind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys heard it here. Thanks, Guillermo.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you guys can take that and implement it into your own lives and start pursuing the things you're passionate about.